Hello everyone, this is Dr. Jawad. Thank you for watching my channel. If you haven't done so, 2 seconds, do me a favor. Hit the subscribe button down below, and next to it is the bell notification, because when I upload videos like this, you'll be first to be notified. Also, if you're watching on Facebook, thank you. A bigger audience. Please hit the like button down below, and again, if you find this information valuable, please share with a friend. I always appreciate a growing audience, and all the computer systems understand that the bigger the audience I have, the more information you will get. So, thank you very much. Enjoy the video. Hello everyone, this is Dr. Jawad. In my previous videos, I've always talked about what to do about adrenal stress or adrenal fatigue, what minerals to take if you're exhaustion, how the adrenal glands, how they tie in with the digestive system, the adrenal glands, how they tie in with the thyroid. But I've never really discussed how the adrenals work. Now, the adrenal glands, they're about the size of a quarter or maybe your thumb. We have 2 of them, and they sit on top of the kidneys. And the unique functions that the adrenal glands has is, one, it's we consider it the pharmacy of the body, because what it does, it helps our body adapt to stress. The pharmacy of the body, meaning that it regulates the sodium, potassium, the water content of the blood. Glucocorticoids, it's our cortisol response. It's our sex hormones. It's also, too, it's responsible for our adrenaline response, the dopamine, the norepinephrine, the epinephrine response in our body, too, again, the fight or flight. So let's go to the very beginning of how this all works, okay? We have a nuclei in the hypothalamus gland called the paraventricular nuclei, which release what's called corticotropin-releasing hormone. It goes into the bloodstream, it goes into a portal system called the hypophyseal portal system in the infundibulum of the anterior pituitary gland, travels down, and it stimulates corticotropes on the anterior pituitary gland, which actually releases 2 types of hormones. One is the alpha MSH, which let's not talk about that right now, but the other one is adrenocorticotropic hormone. That's released in the anterior pituitary gland, which is released in the bloodstream. It travels down through the blood portal system, and it stimulates 3 different layers in what's called the outer layer of the adrenal gland, which is the adrenal cortex. Now, we have adrenal cortex and we have an adrenal medulla. But let's just talk about the adrenal cortex. Because it stimulates receptor cells on the adrenal cortex, the outer layer, the zona glamourosa, the middle layer, the zona fasciculata, and the innermost layer, which is the zona reticularis. Now, in the outermost layer, the zona glamourosa, is responsible for mineralocorticoids. And the mineralocorticoids, it's the minerals. In particular, I want to talk about aldosterone. The next one is the zona fasciculata, which again, that helps stimulate glucocorticoids. This is our stress response, in particularly cortisol. The zona reticularis stimulates cells called gonadocorticoids, particularly androgens. Androgens will turn into DHA and then actually multiplies and turns into the different the testosterone and the estrogens. But we'll talk about that later. Now, one thing in mind, all of these hormones are made by cholesterol. So this is why, again, cholesterol is very, very important how the body works, especially how it adapts to stress. Now, in times of stress, because all these cells are going to amplify their functions, sure, your cholesterol numbers will go up, okay? So this is one thing when I try to talk to my patients about that cholesterol, we actually need it. We actually need it for the production of these hormones. So let's drive over here. Let's talk about the first one. Let's talk about the cells from the zona glamourosa, the mineralocorticoids, particularly aldosterone. The function of aldosterone is actually for sodium reabsorption. So in the distal collecting ducts in the kidneys, what happens is that it helps reabsorb sodium back into the bloodstream. And then in the bloodstream, what's going to do, it's going to secrete potassium. Now with sodium, water always goes to sodium. So what happens then, it's responsible for regulating blood pressure and blood volume. So with the release of aldosterone, you're going to get sodium reabsorption back into the bloodstream, which in turn is going to help increase blood pressure. It's going to increase blood volume. So now cortisol. Cortisol, again, multifunctions. It's this year's stress response. It's a glucocorticoid, which meaning, again, glucose, so you are going to have an insulin response. But cortisol, this is our stress hormone, okay? This, again, this helps regulate our stresses. So what it does, the function of it is that it will suppress the immune system through cytokines. It also, for our fat cells, it stimulates a process called lipogenesis. Lipogenesis basically, lipolysis, sorry about that. Lipolysis, which means that, again, it takes the triglycerides and it breaks it down to fatty acids and glycerol. In the muscle system, because cortisol is very catabolic, it helps break down proteins to amino acids so we could use it. In the liver, cortisol is needed for a process called gluconeogenesis, which really gluconeogenesis is turning a non-carbohydrate source into a carbohydrate, which it's called glucose. It could turn amino acids into glucose, it could turn fatty acids into glucose, and this is another video altogether. So with cortisol, it is very beneficial to us. Last is androgens. Now, when you talk about adrenal, the sex hormones, the androgens for the adrenal glands, for males, it's important, but for females, during when you have your menstrual cycle, most of the hormones are from your ovaries. When you are in postmenopause, the ovaries shut down, and this hormone, this produces all the hormones. But let's stick with the prime years. So with the androgens, again, mainly DHEA, which are converted to testosterone and the estrogens. Okay, for males, testosterone, females, estrogens, primary. But the main function of the adrenal glands is to control your libido and your sex drive. So when we get down to the center of it, the medulla is actually nervous tissue. Okay, and this is responsible for the fight or flight response, the increased sympathetic from T1 to L2. This helps release the dopamine, which will convert into norepinephrine, which will convert into epinephrine. And this is responsible for increasing blood pressure, for increasing gluconeogenesis, for increasing gluconeogenesis. It's also to increase lipolysis. This is part of the adrenal medulla. Now let's talk about how all this works. This works on a negative feedback loop, meaning that if you're producing too much, your body's going to sense through the bloodstream, the hypothalamus, to shut it down. If you have too little circulating hormone, it's going to send a signal to the hypothalamus, okay, we need more. The problem is that, yes, all these are great in moderation. However, cortisol in particular, okay, if we're releasing too much cortisol due to too many stressors, it's going to tell the hypothalamus to shut down the releasing hormone. It's going to tell it to shut down. Shut down. Why? Because we have too much. Let's give our bodies a chance to relax. The problem is it's not receptor specific. So if you have too much circulating cortisol because you're way too stressed out, what's going to happen? Okay, it's going to increase blood pressure. It's going to start to increase protein catabolism. Your muscles are going to be wasted. Okay, it's going to suppress the immune system even more. Lipolysis is actually going to shut down that process. Okay, because it's a glucocorticoid, which means that it's going to increase the insulin response, which when you have too much flow in insulin, it shuts down our fat burning process. Androgens, because the androgens controls the libido. This is why when you're stressed out, you're not in the mood for sex drive. Okay? So just an important factor of how the adrenal glands work. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And if you find this information valuable, please share with a friend. And if you want to schedule a 15-minute consultation with me to see if I could help your condition out, please go to my webpage. And in the upper right-hand corner, it says book an appointment, or click the link down below and just follow the instructions. Thanks for watching.